Greetings, comrades, and it is with much pleasure and excitement that I bring you this video. Today we are going to be playing a brand new Hearts of Iron 4 mod called Pax Britannica. So what is Pax Britannica, you may ask? Well, Pax is an alternate history steampunk 1930s version of Hearts of Iron 4, which I guess is kind of the best way I can describe it. It's a very dystopian and Orwellian world, but PAX features a lot of very interesting toys to play with. And I have also been granted the great privilege to have playtested this mod early, which is why I can bring this video to you today. So once again, a big shout out and thank you to my main man Stallone, who was able to get me into Pax Britannica, and who also has happened to be one of the head modders on the project. So once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I hope that I will do your work great justice. Considering that PAX is an alt history mod, I want to take some time to go over the very seminal turning points within the PAX universe that are different from our own. So the first one being that the Continental Congress votes 5-5 instead of 5-6, which leads to the American Revolution basically fizzling out, and America stays as a commonwealth within the British Empire. After that, the second major divergence is that the French monarchy manages to stay in power, and effectively preventing Napoleon from ever coming to power, which greatly alters the course of Europe. After that, Tesla invents his very own wireless electricity technology system, which creates a ridiculous upsurge in technological advancement, and that's part of the reason why we have all these crazy sci-fi and steampunk machines and concepts within this mod. This period is known as the Second Renaissance and happens throughout the 1800s. And lastly, World War I still does happen. It's not called World War I. It's more of an outgrowth, actually, of the Russo-Japanese War. Basically, the Russo-Japanese War expands and calls in France, Spain, and Italy on Japan's side, where Russia has Germany and Britain on its side. The French alliance is called the Bourbon Alliance, and they end up losing the equivalent of the First World War. So Britain, Germany, and Russia are the major victors. And of course, France loses a bunch of territory, has to sign a humiliating treaty. They have to pay reparations. So France undergoes a period of intense societal transformation after this war, where the victors of the equivalent of the First World War enter a period of stagnation. So Germany, Britain, Russia are all struggling actually after the war, and this period of stagnation causes a whole host of social issues and political issues which divide these former allies. So today we are going to be playing as Imperial Britain, the country the mod is named after. And I have a specific plan for Britain, but we will discuss that as the video continues. So let's read the brief history before we jump on in here. The British Empire, once the undisputed ruler of the world, stands at the weakest point in their long history. The Great War broke the old concert of Europe, once so dutifully maintained by diplomats and leaders. Britain, caught up in the conflict, sacrificed millions of soldiers across the French and Iberian fronts. While Europe languished in their post-war depression, Britain retreated into isolationism, relying on an increasingly dysfunctional system of imperial trade. With their imperial confederation appearing archaic and the constituent commonwealths becoming more assertive, Britain faces a myriad of threats within and without. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. So yeah, by the way, that intro noise, oh, chef's kiss. Alright, Imperial Britain. Britain maintains a vast empire, guide Westminster through the 20th century, crush the Frankish foe, deal with the London market crash, continue the Pax Britannica. The United Kingdom is the dominant power in 1933. A victor in the Great War, Britain retreated into isolationism with the post-war Long Depression that gripped the global economy. Propping itself up with inter-empire trade, the United Kingdom and her Imperial Confederation have weathered the storm of interwar relatively unscathed. However, vast speculation bubbles, unsustainable currency, and growing global discontent threaten to undermine the British Empire, particularly as tensions continue to rise within the up-and-coming American Commonwealth. The United Kingdom now faces threats from a resurgent France and Russia, eager to settle the score from the Great War, as the conflict within their increasingly precarious empire and the nation itself. And off we go. So, my main thing that I want to do for this playthrough, what the hell am I listening to? While this mod comes with a great playlist of music, I'm not sure if I can play it because it may get copyrighted. So, unfortunately, we're just going to have to stick with the Hearts of Iron classics. Now, I have a very specific plan for this playthrough. As I said, I've had the opportunity to play through this mod a couple of times. I've played through as all the main playable nations so far, and for the video here, I want to showcase what I think is some of the unique aspects of this mod. So before I can get into that, I want to jump into the tech tree. As you can see, it's by and large it's very similar to the vanilla Hearts of Iron 4 tech tree, at least for your infantry equipment. You do have a couple added wrinkles. One is MREs, so you actually have to produce food to send to your units on the front line. So you have rations, MREs, and you can move up to military survival kits. You also have basic stimulant manufacturing, which can give your infantry some pluses and minuses, shall we say, if you give it to them. Moving on over, support, mostly similar. However, you'll notice that there are a few unique support companies in the game. We have flamethrowers, we have shock jocks, which I'll read the description here. An interwar expansion on Tesla coil technology. Shock jocks use backpack-mounted electric coils and magnetized weaponry to direct high-voltage electrical waves towards enemies, causing nerve damage and liquefying soft tissue. As a result of their electrical use, these weapons are very effective in dealing in wet, or are very effective in defending in wet environments. Interesting. Whoops, I actually don't want that. Did not mean to press that. I meant to press the next one here is the Panzer Hounds, which is another interesting technology. Originally known as the Panzer Hounds in Germany, a mistranslation of the name during their adoption in Britain led to the name Panzer Hound, with some incorrectly calling them Panther Hounds. An example of the biomechanics, these machines utilize a dog nervous system in a machine body to produce an incredibly fast killing machine for wilderness environments. So basically robot dogs. So we don't want those right now. Moving on to our tanks, which are called land ships. But the next armored segment is the one I want to really focus on, which is the automats. Unfortunately, they don't have a description here, but automats do have a nice little model. Look at that. So, I'm going to lean heavily into these bad boys for this particular playthrough. So, goodbye shock jocks. Welcome, Great War automats. So, moving on again, artillery, not really much changed here. Now, we have some very specific and new tech tree, which are augments. We have hard suits, which are, you know, what you would think. I guess we've been reading them all, so we'll just go through it here. Hard suits were developed near the end of the Great War as a natural evolution of the automat development. Though bulky, these suits allowed pilots to survive in extreme environments and survive kinetic attacks that would decimate conventional troops. A consequence of the use, however, is the need to train and provide therapies to pilots. The human brain was simply not designed to handle a second skin, and without proper training and therapy, these suits can be just as dangerous to their user as the enemy. So yeah, they seem like they're kind of... It basically sounds like you're living inside of a exoskeleton or something like that. The next sci-fi technology we have here are Razor Maidens. With never-ending while never seeing wartime service, the interwar saw many gearheads experiment on themselves, chasing the perpetually unachievable high of being faster, stronger, and deadlier. This practice led to the development of Razor Maidens, a unique class of special operations units largely composed of heavily augmented women. Every appendage is augmented, turning these units into incredibly fast killing machines. In some instances, they are literally armed to the teeth. And over here we have Combatigate primordial forms. Created in the 1920s due to failed cattle yield experiments, Combatigates function as biological shock cavalry. These creatures are released on the enemy in a highly agitated state, and after between 12 and 14 hours will die from organ failure due to an imprinted biological timer, requiring little cleanup or extermination. And apparently they're just horses. So moving on to our naval suite. Naval suite has remained unchanged. For air, however, we do have a Teleforce engine, which will allow us to make some powerful fighters, and in addition to that, we can also build helicopters. So a little bit of a boost there. In terms of our electronics, most of this is the same. However, if you go over here, you'll notice that we have terror weapons, or weapons of mass destruction, which we may or may not end up using, depending on how things go for us. And then lastly, in our industry, we have nothing changed on this side. So for the rest of our research, it will just be basic Hearts of Iron research. When it comes to our weapons production, by and large, we're going to keep most of this the same. I'm going to get some anti-air, throw on some rations, because obviously we need to feed our troops, motorized equipment, because we need to move our troops around. And other than that, do I have a CAS? Let's build some CAS. So for infantry right now, I'm just going to train some colonial garrisons. And as you can see, these are just, your basic hold the line kind of templates. I'm going to just kind of garrison them throughout the empire. So let's head over and look at our decisions. So one of the things you'll notice about the British Empire is they have the Imperial Confederation. This allows us to develop some of our various commonwealths and puppets and colonies. And it also will tell us the thirst for reform, which will be impacted by whichever national focuses we end up choosing. Going down here, we have some other choices. We have manage the House of Commons type of choices, and we have various matters of state. These are events which will open up as the game progresses. Of course. So instead of the good old Panama Canal, and here we'll use this opportunity to move on over and talk over some of the rest of the world here. Obviously, we have North America, which our faction is the Imperial power. So as you can see, we still own pretty much all of North America. Canada is divided into the Commonwealth of Quebec and the Northwest Territorial Colonial Authority. And of course, you have the United American Commonwealth. And then, of course, we have Acadia. Everybody knows Acadia. And Nouvelle Orleans. Moving along, we have the other preeminent empire in North America is Mexico. As you can see, it is sustained by the majesty of its leader's mustache. Although Mexico will be making some moves later in the game, they probably won't become a huge power. Moving down into Central America, as I was talking about, there is no Panama Canal. Instead, we have the Nicaraguan Canal. It seems much larger and more inefficient, but at the same time, apparently this was like the plan B for the Panama Canal, essentially, in our historical timeline. So it's not that implausible. But either way, we have to finish it because it is not yet finished. So I'm going to spend some time investing in that. So down here we have managing our military. I'm going to take, I guess I can't because I don't have command power built up yet. So we will take those when we have the opportunity, but just to show you here, we go over to societal development, which is our last tab. This is a new tab here beside officers, and we can see that our societal development is a rough metric of the various factors within our country. So as time goes on, so for example, we're already industrialized, we don't need to industrialize, but we do need some military reforms, economic health, literacy rate, all that good stuff we can boost up. So over time, and with various decisions and national focuses, we're going to improve all of these various development meters. So with that, that'll bring the opening section to a close, but let's end off with looking at some of the various parts of the world and how they are different from what we might know today. So as we can see, South America is blown up into more states than usual. So Brazil does exist, but the Equatorial Confederation is larger. Moving over into Africa, Africa is by and large owned by the British African Authority. And then we have a few, if we turn on our factions map mode, we can see that almost all of the northern half belongs to the imperial powers. So Tunisia is in our faction. The Kingdom of Egypt is in our faction. Of course, we have the East African Administration. Down here, we have the Central German African Administration, Portuguese Kingdom in exile, and then Southwest Africa, another German African colony. Of course, we have another small British colony here. And another wrinkle is that the Boer War was actually won by the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. So the South Africa is basically owned by the Netherlands and various Boer states. Though, in recompense, we did get Madagascar. We have most of our Middle Eastern territories still in our control. We've spent a little bit of time looking at Europe, but it's not too much different. Obviously, we have the United Kingdoms of Germany, the nice blob in Central Europe. Italy is divided between the Kingdom of Italy and the Italian Socialist Revolutionary Front, which this is an amazing flag. And then, of course, we have Russia, which is a very, very powerful nation in this timeline, doing very well after World War I. They managed to hold on to all of their territory and, in fact, expanded and taking the Caucasus, most of the Caucasus. And I believe they also have, yes, the Ottoman Empire is a client state of Russia as well. The Qing Dynasty is still in power. Japan is not as powerful as it is in our timeline. The Republic of Japan exists, but as you can see, Korea also exists as an independent nation. India is not completely under British control. We do have the British administration of Bengal and Burma, but most of India remains independent under the Maratha Confederacy. It only took me a decade to pronounce that correctly. And in any case, moving on, we have the condominium of the Tamil kingdoms, which is a lovely choice of words. And of course, moving into the lower parts of the Pacific, we have the Far East British administration. But moving over, the Germans have some Pacific colonies, including the Philippines, though the Philippines are fighting for their own independence. We also own large tracts of Japanese land, including Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and then, Taiwan is not Japanese land, but yeah, the British own Taiwan. And then, of course, we have lovely Australia, which is divided into New Holland, the Commonwealth of Victoria, the Republic of Australia, and then, of course, the German Pacific Commonwealth. And with that, we can end the world overview. We can actually start playing the game. Edward announces his intent to marry. Edward, heir presumptive to the King Emperor George V, has approached his father with the intention to marry Princess Helen von Hohenzollern. The relationship between the two has been largely kept under wraps for the last few years. However, the king's health has been rapidly declining, and Edward wishes to ensure his blessing before his condition degrades any further. Though George's mental state is in decline, he has retained his faculties enough to at least sign off on the marriage. Despite Edward's hopes, however, the open support of his father continues to elude him, as George has lapsed back into a malaise state almost immediately after the conversation. Though he did not show it, his father's bouts of delusion clearly awaited on Edward, as he quickly left his father's side to announce the engagement. What would have been one of the most important days of his life, as always, was hampered by his elusive father's emotional distance. The end of an era. Ooh, Kaiser abdicates. So the last days of Britain's King Emperor were spent in a musty room in the Sedgwick house, breaking in and out of consciousness only for the briefest of moments to ask about the Empire. Each time the nurses would reassure him, and each time he lapsed back into a daze. Day by day, Edward watched his father fall further and further into the clutches of death. Less than a month ago, he'd approached him to marry, and now he is sitting at his deathbed for a father who could barely even recognize him. George, for his part, has had little to ruminate on, but regrets during his brief pangs of awareness. Regrets that he could not be like his father. Regrets that he could not be the same great man who steered the state through the catastrophe. Had he been more lucid, perhaps his son would have that common foundation, but his mind was lost in a morphine-induced mist. The hour finally came. In the dead of night, George's nurses administer one last dose of sedatives. The sun rose on the empire without a king, and a son without a father. The king is dead, and long live the king. Death of the king. We're going to bypass the national focus, obviously. So now we have Edward VIII, having been officially coronated as the new king emperor to the British Empire. Edward addressed the nation via radio. The future of the nation, he said, is one of progress and modernity. He stated his firm belief in the foundations of the Imperial Confederation, and reaffirmed his enthusiasm for the soon approaching Imperial Congress. Though his father did not frequently choose to address the nation directly, Edward has chosen to fully embrace the modernization of the monarchy. A further announcement came that he would be conducting regular radio addresses to the country, attempting to answer questions from the public and further build bridges between King and his countrymen. As expected, the speech saw wide support from the public, though some on the left grumbled about Edward's seeming intention to re-emphasize the monarchy and British politics. Standoff at the French border, province of Lorraine, was fully demilitarized. The Great Balkan War. Here comes the stock crisis. There we have our stock. Oh shit, I should have maybe read some of that. Because, yeah, this is a seminal moment here. The crisis deepens. Dear Prime Minister, we are ready to report that shipping industries around the country have collapsed due to lack of demand for the market of British ships in the Empire due to the stock crash and the inability to gain stock produce wherever demand, to gain the stock to produce whatever demand is left. To make matters worse, this has led to massive unemployment in the industrial north of England, Scotland, and Wales, which has practically made Britain bankrupt overnight. It now falls to you, Prime Minister, to fix this mess, as we in the Treasury cannot afford to do so because we have practically no money left. Your friend and colleague, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Okay, yeah, so the stock market crashed. Shit's getting real. Okay, so this will be another seminal moment coming up here. Will the Prime Minister acknowledge the fact that his policy of economic isolation and his ignorance of British reliance on German demand has caused this crisis? Cried Major Clement Attlee, leader of the opposition. Prime Minister Douglas Haig just sat disappointed. Oh, I forgot that Haig's the Prime Minister. I forgot that. Don't know why I find that so funny, but that's hilarious. Anyway, so Haig is sad. So Haig just sat disappointed on his bench. Attlee was a fine soldier and would have made a fine Tory, yet he had given in to the whims and wishes of the socialists calling themselves the masses. How could he not see that his policy of economic and imperial isolation kept Britain from suffering the last 20 years? How could they bypass this mere fact? To make matters worse, Haig heard the murmur of support from his own side of the House of Commons, which deeply troubled him. Haig, though old, knew he could not abandon his scare duty of ministership, so he rose and spoke. As long as the people of this great nation have faith in the national coalition, they know we shall fix the slight economic ripple like we did the last time under this government. Haig knew that the national coalition was his only way to keep Britain safe, and he intended to keep that way. At least the coalition is safe. Oh, the coalition collapses. Who could have seen this coming? Haig sat with his friend and aide, advisor Edmund Blackadder, and more importantly, a trusted friend since his time in the military. Haig knew what was coming. Only Blackadder had the guts to tell him the bad news due to his extensive friendship with the former Field Marshal. Douglas, this morning, more than enough of the Whigs and the National Coalition have refused to pledge their support to our party's combined effects to make the National Coalition defunct. Hag sat there dumbfounded. How dare they betray him in Britain's hour of need? Hag grasped at the left breast with a sudden pang forming inside his heart. Hag remembered the last time this occurred when he had heard of the casualties during the Iberian campaign. The scar had not yet healed. "Are you alright, Douglas?" Blackadder asked with concern. Hag nodded and grasped the table for support before looking at his trusted confidant and murmuring, "Oh, for God's sake." General elections begin. So yeah, it's a Piccadilly Circus. So yeah, with the collapse of the coalition, we are now having an election. So this is the moment where we get to really choose the future of Great Britain. There are 4 choices, actually. 3 of them are very obvious, and then there is a 4th secret choice. So we obviously have a workers' union party. However, we do have, as I stated, another path that I am considering. And that is the secret path over here, which is the King's Agenda. So before we get there, there's a Tory victory, which is, a centrist conservative party. There's also a MPP victory, which is a sort of is analog to the Nazi Party of Germany. So, very obviously ultra-nationalist party. And then moving on over to the King's Agenda, which is kind of similar, but basically what happens is that none of these parties win, and the king becomes the dictator. It becomes like the emperor of Britain, but the military in and of itself kind of really runs the show. So it kind of becomes sort of a military dictatorship, and it's pretty messed up. Honestly, it's a pretty messed up path. So ultimately, even though it's a pretty messed up path, I'm going to show you how to achieve the secret 4th path for Great Britain and basically ascend King Edward VIII to the all-assuming emperor and dictator of Great Britain. So the way you do this basically is you ensure that none of the parties are able to gain anywhere close to a majority. So the way I do that is I always just have one different party win each of these events. So here the Tories will win this one. Okay, so we'll have the United Workers Party, the Workers Union Party, or rather, win the next one. In Southern England, we're going to do the NPP. And the results of the election are, the winner is no clear winner. So, another thing you need to do here is, instead of forming a coalition with the Tories, you're going to let the Workers' Union Party form the new coalition. Now, we have the Irish Succession War. So come out, ye black and tans. Our strength as a nation will depend upon our economic freedom and upon our moral and intellectual force. These things we could become a shining light in the world. Michael Collins. Alrighty. So anyway, so the king can choose to agree with this new coalition, or he can choose to oppose it. So we are going to refuse to support this new party. So we're going to propose, the king refuses and proposes a coalition government, and the Whigs become the ruling party, and elections will not be held. So now that we have our Great War automat finished, I'm not going to build any. What I am going to do is move right into our next line of production here. So there are 3 choices: the duopod, the tripod, and the quadrupod. These represent light tanks, medium tanks, and heavy tanks. And through some testing of these different various vehicles and in different scenarios, I found what I believe to be the most effective of these 3 to be the middle one here, the tripod, the sort of quote-unquote medium tank. So we're going to put that, and there we go. Hag is now dead. He wasn't long for this world after he had that whole heart attack thing. The act which will allow us to begin to rebuild our shattered economy. To everyone's surprise, in the immense distress of the British government and her allies, the House of Commons have failed to pass the National Recovery Act. That's right, of course. Because we intentionally gridlocked Parliament. The act, which was promised in the government's manifesto and all rival parties in manifesto, failed to pass the House of Commons. The fallout from this disaster has already begun to be felt. All across the country, trade unions are calling for general strikes. Protests from local governments have seen standoff between the central government in London and regions in Britain. All that is known is that a storm is coming. A storm that the ancient parliamentary political system of Britain might not survive the aftermath. The government has failed to act, and they will now reap what they have sown. Even though we didn't pass it, we still get the option to open up that national focus. So having bread riots in London. Edward said he's not going to let his people starve. He's pissed. So things are going pretty well in Ireland. I think we're going to wrap this up here really quickly. Yeah, like incredibly quickly. So here we go. We have the military now storming Parliament. JFC Fuller strode into Parliament alongside Arthur Harris in the halls of Parliament. Fuller was a veteran of the Great War and leading thinker in armored warfare. Fuller lost faith in democracy when the National Recovery Act failed, similar to Air Marshal Harris. Together, they walked behind the only man who could unite Britain, King Edward VIII. Earlier, Fuller ordered his troops to storm Parliament and clear the way for the king to dissolve the waste of space called Parliament. It was over then in less than 5 glorious minutes. The king dissolved them using his royal prerogative, made them bow whilst he left, humiliating the bastards on the way out. The king afterwards spoke to the troops and onlookers gathered beforehand, wishing to witness what was going on. The speech was short and effective, and he told the country how the king was fed up with the current parliament and how he was fed up with them and would replace them with fresh elections once the crisis was over. The crowd cheered and applauded for the king to Fuller's delight. For the first time since the Great War, JFC Fuller finally had hope in the British political system before he cried, "God save the king," which was unanimously joined by all onlookers. So this is how democracy dies. Obviously, we have troops deployed in London for the first time in living memory. Troops have marched through the streets of London in the dead of night. A clique of British officers, spurred by the economic crisis and parliamentary gridlock, has seized the apparatus of the state. And this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause. So the main thing we really have to be careful here is we have to not let our popularity, here we go, fall below 50%. So because of that, I can't really use any of my I can't really use any of these other options except unite the Commonwealth once again. So we will not, sadly, get Northern Ireland. Alright, now we emphasize the military and politics. We're going to secure Birmingham. Okay, we got a little bit of political power here. Eliminate Dover. Debates on Dominion reform. So, when it comes to the Imperial Congress, basically it's a great gathering of all the various dominions, and we come and discuss the future. Whether you go for the conservative or reformist option is really just going to affect what national focuses you can choose, and then of course that will affect some of your various colonies throughout the world. So in the meantime, I'm gonna keep things, I'm gonna go conservative for a bit because I want to get this one, and then I want to go reformist because then I want to go this one. So it's a weird system, but we'll manage it. Formation of the Scottish Independence Party. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be supporting them anytime soon. Shit, we gotta address the nation. Okay, well, that brought us up to 61. Placeholder Ferdinand Harris oversee the establishment of the British Constitution with heavy military influence, placing the Royal Army in a position to protect democracy with whatever means necessary. So yeah, we're gonna have to keep boosting up the party's legitimacy. Hooray! Modern military. And that gives us 150 political power. That is exactly what I want. We're going to finish off that Scottish resistance. Oh, okay. We got a double. Oh, yeah. We got a double event there. Kind of weird, but I'll take it. So I'll push north and take care of the Welsh resistance. And with the new, Harrison Fuller established a new party for national unity and salvation. A big tent party with former conservative military members, MPP officials, created to create a controlled opposition to the new government and restored parliament. There we go, address the nation again. Perfect. We've got ourselves up to 76%. I think we're going to be okay. Oh, and the tripods are done. Okay, now with these done, it's time. It's time to basically start what you all came here to see, which is fucking shit tons of mechs. So we're going to favor the fuller clique just to get some armored bonuses. I don't know if they affect automats, but hopefully they do. Now that we are done with Ireland, it is time for us to focus our attention on another small defenseless nation for us to beat up, and that is, of course, Yemen. So we do have a option to take and invade Yemen. Came home again. All right. Wow, we got Thomas of Arabia as a general, or Lawrence of Arabia as a general. Hey, check that out. We invaded Yemen and killed him almost instantly. Okay, perfect. We can recall the main force back to here. Yeah, so in order to move to the Telforce engine, you have to research all your first initial fighters here. So I'm going to do that really, go through that really quickly now. Boom, Nicaragua bridged. The Nicaragua project is finished, and now we can send people easily from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean and vice versa. So we're about to finish up the Edwardian Restoration here, and that will finish our major political branch. So we're going to get a new Britain. The British population welcomes the official end of the national stabilization regime and the resumption of normal policies. Edward can only watch in horror as the British people begin to openly welcome their new mangled democracy and fears for the future of England, as it can now only be molded by the new authoritarian democracy. Fuller announces the beginning of new elections, but leaves out that said elections will be carefully managed and vetted by the National Salvation Party. British democracy is, at least for now, dead. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, yeah, I don't know what he exactly thought was going to happen when he stormed Parliament with the military. So, with our new completely messed up with our completely mangled form of democracy secured, we can focus ourselves to economic matters and begin to rebuild Britain after the economic devastation we just endured. And for now, I can spend my time focusing on, okay, of course we're going to let Italy join the powers. Italy sides with the UK, hooray! So now we have the opportunity to kind of rest a little bit. We've finished with the political section of the focus tree. There's not going to be a lot that is going to happen until, really honestly, until kind of the big wars start to kick off. So in the meantime, I'm going to just be going through, finishing up my economic focuses, not much to say, and then also the big things that we're going to talk about before the war are some of our colonial decisions. So we will be back for those, but there's not really going to be a whole lot going on. So France just walked into and reclaimed Brest. One of the things I neglected to mention sort of is, as we talked about, they lost the First World War, and they lost some territory, mainly here in Wallonia, and they lost Brest, and they also lost a little bit of territory down here. So they're pretty keen to regain it, and obviously leading up to the major crisis points of the war, France is going to be continually trying to gobble up as much of that old territory as it can. And the crisis is over. We have completely recovered economically from the latest and greatest stock market crash. So now I want to pull myself back a little bit towards the reformist section here. So I'm going to go with propose a new unified currency. They have agreed. I'm going to piss off the Yanks by taking sole control of the canal zone. Alright, and now I'm going to propose further centralization. France moving quickly, marching into Wallonia even before I had the opportunity to look at what they had done. They'd pretty much taken the territories, so Wallonia did not stand much of a chance. So I forgot to mention that Mr. Churchill owns the British administration in Bengal and Burma. I just mentioned this because obviously under the conservative reform, I have to put him in charge of the area, or at least enforce his plans. Alright, so it's finally happening. The actual war is finally broken out. So France has declared war on the Netherlands. They decided they just don't like them anymore, and they want to get rid of them. And us personally, we're not a big fan of that. So we're going to do our best to circumnavigate that and prevent it from happening. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare war on France. Now, unfortunately, that takes 25 days, and I may as well show you my battle template here. I've got 6 infantry divisions and 5 medium tripod divisions. So yeah, and then I don't have very much support equipment, just some maintenance and some artillery. Basically, I just want these guys to be able to push back the enemy and take limited damage because they have lots of armor. Alright, the British Minister of Foreign Affairs cannot believe his ears when talking to his German colleague. The French and Russians had shaken hands upon a military alliance. Not yet, the Germans were too far calm about the whole affair. Not to be rude to you, but are you fully aware of the implications? The British Minister asked, hinting to the slight annoyance in his face. The calm figure of the German minister did not help at all. He sheepishly replied, "I am," without any further elaboration. The British ministry is currently looking through a variety of possibilities in the near future. Listening to the advice of the German ministry has given in accordance with their perspective on the situation, but not a single analysis ended up with at least the advice of mobilizing a part of the military. Tapping the papers on the table, the British minister's swift rattling of facts did not seem to impress the German minister. Again, the German minister calmly answered, the German Empire simply does not share the over-pessimistic and perhaps even militaristic view of the British Empire. That seems to me the biggest obstacle at the moment. Perhaps it's internal siege mentality of the bureaucrats you employ or the German experience to the continent, but we are more worried about the potential problems this may cause for the market operations in Russia, France, and the rest of Europe than the continental peace somehow being threatened. If he could, the British minister would have snapped, but diplomacy had to prevail, even if the Hun had lost his eyesight. But I guess the Germans aren't taking their dire warning seriously. And there goes the Netherlands. So, as I said, okay, now Germany is with us. They have joined us. Okay, and now we're going to put pressure on the Persians. And we're going to bring the Portuguese into the war with us. And before I forget, let me just take a fleet here. I don't know why we don't start off with any naval commanders for some reason. But anyway, I'm just going to have them go on convoy escort so I can get my troops to where they need to be. Okay, Italy is now in with us. Italy is on our side, but it doesn't look like they are very prepared for war. So, as I was saying, I think personally that Britain is the hardest of the starting countries to play this mod in, and the reason for that being is that Germany just sucks. Like, you can win if you play as Germany, but trying to help them out as their ally is just an exercise in pain and futility. And as you can see, that the war has just started and are already not doing very well. The French are blitzing through the Netherlands in almost sort of a reverse move from our timeline, where the French have blitzed through the Netherlands and then are using these flat plains to move into the German industrial heartland. And it seems to be working pretty well for them. Okay, Russia has joined the pact. So the two powers, we have the Imperial powers and we have the Pact Bolsheviste. Okay, and now we are changing ourselves to the League of Nations. Because we just want everybody to get along and be happy. And buy our stuff. Mostly buy our stuff. Man, like the French are even kicking the crap out of everybody. Like, that's right. Like, even Italy will fall. Or the Germans are just getting destroyed. Alright, well, my first goal is to hope I could take out the Spanish pretty quickly out of this war. And then from there, I'm going to go in and help the Italians. And hope that they don't die in the meantime before I can get there. So, I don't know if I have enough mechs to really make the difference. Hopefully we do. But here, we're going to go to the staff office plan. Alright, so we're locked and loaded, and I think there's no time like present to initiate our first attack. We have great superiority over the enemy, so our mechs, like I said, they're just shredding them. They can almost overwhelm the defenses in the mountains, but they're not that good. But the rest of the Spanish front lines, they are completely obliterating. Oh, at least I got one overrun there. See if I can get that port. Yay, we rule the lands. Now let us dominate the skies. Ah, shit, I need to take that port back, something fierce. So we're not going to be able to sustain this southern offensive. There we go. Got our supplies back. Ah, man, we gotta stop, I guess. We're not going quite as fast as I would have hoped, but we did gain some sizable territory. But where our mechs are is where the battle is really performing the best for us. Another little tiny itty bitty encirclement there. Nice, got a little encirclement here. Oh no! Oh! Uh-oh. Are they fighting in South Africa? Why? Why are they doing this? So I made some pretty good little encirclements here and there. Though our offensive is getting bogged down the most in the center. See how Germany and Italy are actually holding. I can't believe it. Oh, sick. They're just gonna leave Madrid open for us? Okay, let's try for another global offensive. Why do I have these exercising? I should probably not do that. That's okay. We have been getting some military XP, which is always nice. It's not like they are in a huge amount of danger. Oh my god, look at this. It's bleeding. Bleeding in Italy. Oh jeez. There goes Frankfurt. But yeah, with Germany fighting on all fronts, it's very difficult for them. Maybe the Italians have stabilized? Who knows? But at least, like I said, we're still doing well down here in Spain. Our mechs are leading the charge. Oh, nice. We're actually getting reinforcements. I want to see, what are our casualties? I mean, how many automatons have we lost? We've only lost... I've lost more to attrition than actual fighting. Fundamentally superior aircraft. They're fundamentally superior, boys. Fundamentally. Inarguable. Come on. Don't let them take it. Or reinforce it, I mean. Yes! Oh! What a beautiful encirclement. Go, mechs, go! Walk all over them. They're desperately trying to break out up here. But fortunately, we have mechs. I should see our casualties here. Oh man, I haven't even invited everybody into the war yet, so let's get this party started. It's not like everybody needed them and they can do anything anyway. We've only lost 65,000 troops in comparison to... Man, we've killed almost 1 million... Oh no, never mind, that's Germany. They've only killed 100,000 Germans. Well, thankfully, these two kingdoms are still alive for now. Oh, it's okay, we'll take it back. Oh, nice! Welcome, 13T. Remove the scars of the Iberian campaign. Okay. Well, we knocked Spain out of the war, and one thing you may have noticed there is one of the interesting aspects about this mod is that when you defeat a country, you don't need to wait for the peace treaty to knock them out. Sometimes, depending on the event, they will become neutral, sometimes they'll become your ally. We will see what Spain does here, but as you can also see, they changed. Oh, look, they did become... Yes, they are part of my team. They're part of Timo Supremo now. Yeah, yes you guys are. So I don't know why they get to escape, even though they're on our territory and we encircled them. Fuck, that's kind of a pain. That's kind of bitter. The future of Spain. Shall we roll by the Windsors? Okay, I am doing it. There we go, into France proper. Weapons of mass destruction. We'll go with the laboratory conditions for germ growth. French are too spread out. Too spread out for their own good. Let me not connect to the capital. Oh, okay. It is, but it's just a weird system they have here. Grind forward. That's not even really a grind. What are my casualties? I've only had 41,000 casualties. We've killed a lot of French. And we just gotta get the waves going, and then we will be the ultimate military. Wow, we're just spanking them so bad. I can't believe how bad they were spanking them. We're gonna get live wired now. Are our mechs destroying them? Yeah, they are. Or there's tanks, I mean. They're able to pierce their tanks, which is awesome. I think I'm gonna need more guys to hold the line. I don't have enough troops to actually hold the line. I gotta pause here. And I have to basically send in my colonial garrison to save Italy from total destruction. Oh my god. Oh yeah, they're declaring war in Scandinavia now. Off the rails, out of control. Oh, shit, now that they have taken out Germany, they're starting to give me everything they got. Don't let them cross the stream. The river. They crossed it. Yeah, now we're at the point where things have kind of devolved into trench warfare. Alright, well, this is gonna be quite a slog. Unless, of course, they exhaust themselves just throwing themselves at me. Look at this, it's 0 casualties, 0, 0, 0, 14, 14, 6, 0, 0, 0. God, they must be getting totally massacred. 600,000. So, they're really also, they're pushing everywhere. The French are really, their AI is super aggressive. But, I mean, this is going to work out well for us because we got a pretty solid defensive line here. It's not going to be easy for them. So we've managed to gain territory around Vichy here, and we've stabilized our supply zones. Unfortunately, Norway has capitulated, and it's just looking grim on the continent. The fight grinds on, but I think we might actually manage to capture Paris. Paris is so close, I can taste it. And let's clean up the breast pocket here. Alright, and it looks like we will close the breast pocket after all. And with that, we will also crush a healthy 13 or 14 divisions here. Unfortunately, I'm having that glitch where I can't see what the hell, you know, how many enemy counters there actually are. But once I annihilate this pocket, which we have, I'm going to do the whole restart song dance. So now that we've restarted and I can actually see what's going on, I've managed to get my troops into an encirclement here, and hopefully we can finish the job. I'm just worried about the supply line. But yeah, I have the Empire's manpower flowing in from all over the world, and they should be deploying onto various fronts shortly. And I'm hoping that that will allow us to put the final nail in France's coffin, closing this pocket, and of course, bringing in the Dominion's reserve manpower. Hopefully that'll be enough.
That's enough.
I wonder if we can actually advance on Paris, because they don't have any air force defending it. I wonder if we can actually take it out. That would be hilarious. It's actually going to work. That might actually work. Oh no, at least they saved their pocket. There'll be a time. Oh wow, we might actually get another... We're gonna re-encircle them. Maybe if we're lucky this time we can make it stick. Damn. Back to the drawing board. So when I wasn't looking, one of my random throwaway attacks that I did not expect to succeeded. And the fall of Paris has happened. But what I'm doing is they can only maintain air superiority over one tile at a time. So I'm just kind of playing like musical chairs with them. Just moving around. Just keep flooding people in. Yeah, this is like it's a lot of intense micromanagement on this front to try and win the day here. Oh, we got another little encirclement. We didn't get quite the encirclement that I hoped, but still, slowly but surely, we're grinding them down. Oh no! No.
Ready.
There we go. We're okay. We're okay.
Listen up.
Oh no! Don't run away! Please don't run away! I'm just starting to get to know you. Shit! We're not gonna be able. They're gonna be able to abandon the pocket, aren't they? Gonna need a mech to push there, or at least effectively push there. Unless the Air Force can blow them away before they can really do anything, but that doesn't look like it's gonna happen. Well, after an extreme grind, we finally did it. Cherbourg is ours, and the pocket is closed. And with that, I think we might finally be able to... I've been hoping that we've been able to take these guys out for a while, but this might finally be the real nail in the coffin. This is a lot of troops here. This is a huge pocket we're closing. That's gonna bite. That's gonna bite them. Man, they got 72% inferior enemy. It's looking good. Alright, well, at least in northern Italy we're crushing them, but I guess we could try and fight them out here too. It's probably not the best idea, but we can push them back. I mean, it's going to take forever to beat these guys. We may be able to take their secondary capital here, if we're lucky enough. I know I keep saying that, but, well, you know, sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't. It's the name of the game. Because, you know, this is blackjack, right? That's what we're playing? No, this isn't the New World Order. Boom! Boom! Oh, body blow! Oh! Wow, we captured their secondary capital, and that's still not enough to capitulate them. Have I finally evened the army odds out? Yeah, I have. Oh, is this it? Is France going to capitulate? Oh, yes! Whew. War outcome. That's awesome. Very happy to see that. Wow, and that instantly liberated everybody. Well, I don't know why. Why? Okay, here we go. The future of Europe, the French problem. Okay, what should we do? Francia delenda est. Francia must be destroyed. Wow, what a mess. What a disgusting mess. It's beautiful. Well, France offers advisors. Sure. We still do have work to do. We still do have to defeat Russia. Alright, here goes the naval invasion. Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't bring the Mechs in prematurely. They would have gotten attrition to death. No, I totally forgot about this fighting over here in Alaska. Obviously, Russia has a colony here called Novorossiya, which means a new Russia. Alright, here's my big line all the way into Russia. Don't want to draw another line. I think they can't defend Scandinavia at all, so it's going to fall quickly. And we just have British Dominion troops flooding into Germany right now. The slow march continues. Honestly, I don't even need mechs. Maybe I'll just throw them in on somewhere here. Yeah, it's over. It's definitely over for the Pact. Finland, the Free Finnish Army, have retaken control of their country. While I wasn't looking, France, or the Republic of Sien, sorry, I know I should, as a Canadian, have better French pronunciation, but people will scream at me later. In any case, while I wasn't looking, they decided that they were going to declare war on the independent Basque state and snatch it up from them. But I am really not that concerned about it. We're just kind of like a blight on the map anyway, so they had to go. That small pocket taken care of. The Russians definitely don't have very many pockets that they can afford to lose. Oh man, I wasn't even looking. It looks like we took Moscow. Let's get Tsaritsyn. The Russians sue for peace. The bear has finally been brought low. I just want to take control of Denmark. That's my claim for the war. So is that it? Have we officially The Baltics under occupation. Alright, so look at this. Now we have started the process of dismantling Russia and reshaping the world. If I'm not mistaken, this will also allow us to unlock the Britain Forever. Okay. I guess anti-treaty exoration. The war hasn't quite ended, I guess. Russia in flames. The situation in Russia has completely disintegrated. The military insurrection caught both Imperial and League forces off guard, leaving many stranded in Russia's major city or mandates. Outside of these cities, the nation has exploded in total war. Decades of civil discontent threaten to burn what remains of Russia to cinder. All Russian Republican Army has been formed by League-backed politicians and now vows alongside the Jacobin allies to restore stability that Russia is so sorely lacking. Russia defeated at last by itself. So, we will see Russia has exploded into a number of various different states. We have Bukharin holding the United States of the Far East and Green Ukraine. Ukrainian interim national unity government. Polish transition. The Belarusian transition. Is that Pat? No, it's Uruguay. And then, of course, we have the Baltics. The British Mandate of Moscow. And then we also have Petrograd, which I guess is governed by Germans. Wow, look at that fat Finland. The anti-treaty interaction has spurred Russian General Alexander Kolchak, alongside several other leaders, to seize control of the Siberian provinces, declaring the Siberian emergency government. Kolchak has announced his refusal to take part in the insurrection. Okay. So yeah, we're going to get a couple of different events here, I suppose, showing us the disintegration of Russia. So I guess we just gotta sit back and hope that they win. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to complete our Britain Forever focuses, because the Second Great War is not considered over, because I don't think the Second Great War will be considered over until the Russian anti-treaty insurrection is stamped out. However, I cannot join the All-Russian Provisional Republican Army and help them stamp it out. And I've been going through maybe about a year, and there's no progress. They just sit there, nothing's happening. And I would like to get this video out very close to or shortly after the mod's launch, so I think this is going to have to be the end of this particular playthrough. However, I'm extremely happy with how things panned out. I'm particularly happy with the performance of my medium tripods. They were able to flood the continent and overthrow the French dictatorship and declare Pax Britannica forever. And with that, before I go, I'd once again like to make a very special shout out and thank you to Stallone and the Pax Britannica team to giving me early access to this mod. And I would of course encourage you all to check it out. It should be out by the time you're seeing this video. I'll leave a link to the Steam Workshop in the description or pinned comment, and I encourage you all to go check it out. And with that, this has been Comrade, signing off for now, and until next time, you guys take care.